Hey friends, this is the day when the Life Repurposed podcast episodes release. However, this isn't a regular episode. It won't be very long, but let me explain why there isn't a new regular episode today. I've realized that I have to practice what I preach, and part of what I preach is balance and boundaries. And that means when my commitments feel out of balance or I have more ideas than I have time, I have to figure out how to make it all work and keep my mind. I've been praying about the podcast and sensing that God has some other areas of ministry where He wants me to also focus. Don't worry, this podcast isn't going anywhere, but what's going to change is how often the episodes release and a little bit of the format. For the past few years, I've released an episode every week. That's been a tough commitment to keep sometimes. Even if it meant staying up late or recording at weird times, I did it. And I'm really proud of that accomplishment because when the podcast started out, it was really random. I was releasing them whenever I had time, and eventually there was too big of gaps between some of the episodes. So I made a decision that it was going to be a weekly podcast and I was going to stick with it. And it has taught me discipline and commitment to my goals. But I also realize that sometimes I'm afraid to make changes because easing up on something can feel like failure. You maybe know what it's like when you decide you need to take a sabbatical from some role and you don't want to let people down. I feel that way about every one of you who has your earbuds in right now. I'm committed to bringing you content that encourages you, and that's not going to change. But to keep it going, a little pivoting and some adjusting isn't failure, it's success. For me, that means a little less frequency here because it's going to leave room for some other things that I really feel called to do. Now, if you're somebody that has set those goals and you're working on them, it's kind of like if you've been running every day, and I'm not a runner, so I don't have this going, but let's say you're a runner and you have a streak going every day, and now something comes up where you're going to have to break that streak. It's hard to do it, but sometimes we have to just take that step. If you have something in your life that needs a little changing, I want to encourage you that it's a win whenever the decision makes you a better person or gives you space for another mission. Anywho, you don't need to hear me girl-splaining. Here's the bottom line. I've had at least 2 other podcast ideas that God is nudging me to develop. And there are no blank spots in my calendar, not even enough time to brainstorm what that might look like. The podcast and my writing are funded by my freelance work that I do for other clients, and that means I can't quit my day job. So, new episodes of Life Repurposed will come out every other week instead of every week. And those episodes will be a little bit longer with a little more solo commentary in the beginning and then the guest interview after that. So there will be a guest on every episode and a little more commentary from me. Only when appropriate. Don't worry, I'm not going to ramble. Okay, maybe I'm actually rambling right now. The interviews you hear with the guests are booked way ahead already right now. So I have those planned out. A lot of them have been recorded, and I'm just coming to the end of a huge batch that I did before. So I'm recording some new episodes right now. So that content's already figured out. But the episodes that you hear in between those solo ones that I've been doing have been much more random. And some of those are the ones that I sometimes record the night before. I don't want to be doing that anymore. I want to stick with the ones that are working and the ones that I have organized and planned out. If you've had some trouble staying caught up on all your favorite shows, this might be a relief for you. I don't know if you're like me, but I like to listen to other podcasts. And when I'm out walking, there's 30 minutes to an hour when you're out for a walk, and that might be one podcast. And you might have a lot of them you like to listen to. So I'm kind of relieved when there's some that release every other week. So this will be your chance to catch up on your favorite shows, or maybe go back and listen to episodes of this one that you've missed. This will also give me more time to be more intentional with the Facebook community. The Life Repurposed Facebook community has not been as meaningful as I'd like it to be just because I'm not on there as often as I'd like to be. And I really want to interact with you, my listeners. So this will give me some space to do some live videos in the group that I've been thinking about doing for a long time. I can do some of that between episodes. I'll continue to be intentional about the guests that I have here on the show. My mission has not changed. I still want to produce messages of hope to inspire you to find hope in the trashy stuff of life and experience the joy of a life repurposed. That hasn't changed at all. For a non-episode, I think this has gotten a lot longer than I had planned. So I just want to tell you, I'll be back next week with an interview with Gwen Jackson. We'll be talking about the rhythms of spiritual practices. If you've ever felt guilty because your practices and habits aren't as regular as someone else's, you may appreciate what Gwen has to say about how we are all wired differently. So that will be next Thursday. I'll be back with a brand new episode, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks for listening in, and thanks for always cheering on the Life Repurposed podcast by listening and reviewing and sharing with your friends. I always appreciate that. You've been listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn. Check out tips, resources, and inspiration at michellerayburn.com to get the show notes for this episode. I also invite you to join the Life Repurposed Facebook community for weekly conversation with others on the journey of discovering the repurposed life.